Hey guys, if you watched the video in which I show how I built the speaker baffle, you've noticed that I'm using a homemade round hole router jig to cut the speaker holes. Today I will show you how to build a similar jig in just a couple of minutes. For this project you will need a router, 4 screws that will fit the holes of your router, and a scrap piece of plywood. The thickness of the plywood is not critical. I'm using 8mm thick plywood. First, remove the plastic base from your router. Put it on the plywood piece and mark the outlines and screw holes, as well as the cutout for the router bit in the middle. Be aware that you will do all the cuts and drilling from the top, so the router will be mounted from the bottom side. To avoid blowouts when drilling the holes, I use a piece of scrap wood as a support underneath the plywood board. The same goes for bigger round hole. To make sure the screws will sit flush with the surface, I'm countersinking the holes with a countersink bit. I'm using a jigsaw to cut out the roundover pattern of the router. Now with the router unplugged, I'm checking to see if the jig fits the router. Seems to be perfect, so I adjusted the height of the bit as a reference for the measurements. To make the marks for the standard speaker sizes, I aligned the ruler to the end of the bit on my left, and then clamped the ruler on the other side to make it more convenient when marking the holes. Be sure not to forget that you need a hole which is approximately 1 inch smaller than the normal size of the speaker. So for example, if you need a hole for 12-inch speaker, the diameter of the hole needs to be 11 inches. But since you only need to measure the radius of the circle, you will need a half of that value, which means that you will need to measure 5.5 inches for a 12-inch speaker. Hope I didn't confuse you too much. When you're drilling these holes, they should be exactly the same as the thickness of the screws you'll be using, so that there is no play when you're cutting the hole. I also wanted to trim off the bulky sides of the jig, which will make it nicer and easier to use. After I sanded off all the edges smooth, I test fitted the jig one more time. I decided to try using the shellac for the first time in this project just to add a bit of smoothness and protection for the jig. I put extremely light coats several times and let it sit for at least half an hour between coats. This step of course is not necessary, so you can use a paste wax or mineral oil to help it run smoother when cutting. Since I already have one of these jigs, I made this one as a present for my friend. He's planning on cutting some holes for his 15-inch JBL Alnico speakers, so maybe in one of the next videos we'll visit him and see how the jig performs. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. If you enjoyed this small project and would like to see more videos and projects like this one, you can support me on Patreon.